Welcome to Discovering. Tonight we'll take a closer look at a common UP tree species and the crucial role it plays in wildlife habitat.
For wildlife, a lot of these different age classes of aspen that we're talking about are really important. In fact, in Michigan, over 70 species of wildlife are dependent on aspen in their different life stages.
And we'll take a look at the art of making handmade fishing creels.
I sat in on a class and I loved it.
That's all tonight, so stick around. It's Monday night and time for Discovering.
The secret streams that flow beneath the cliffs of colored stone. Forests thick and healthy with birch and pine and oak. Surrounded by the greatest lakes this world has ever known. The black bear's awesome presence as he roams the hills and fields. Call of the timber wolf, the loon's lonesome trill, the eagle soaring high above, the trout lies deep and still. These are what I treasure, the only way I measure feelings that I have for this fine land. There is so much to discover when you're a long-time lover of northern Michigan.
There are about 40 different tree species in the Upper Peninsula depending on what you call a tree, each with its own set of uses and purposes. One we're all familiar with is aspen. Aspen forests support a wide range of plant diversity over the stand's lifespan of 50 to 70 years. Different growth stages in aspen forests result in different ground cover, fruiting shrubs, and competing tree species that come and go. It's this plant diversity that helps provide crucial habitat for many different species of wildlife.
So today we're talking about aspen, and it's important for wildlife. Behind me here is the younger age class, the 10-year-old aspen roughly. So this type of habitat here is going to actually provide critical brood habitat for rough grouse. Their woodcock are going to be nesting in this type of aspen. Also, this is high quality browse for moose and for deer. It's real efficient browsing actually for moose. They'll actually grab those young aspen whips and kind of pull and take all the leaves off. In the wintertime, they're going to browse the buds and those kinds of things, same as deer. Also some non-game wildlife actually really, this is critical for them. Particularly a lot of warbler species are going to be feeding in these and breeding in this type of aspen, this age class of aspen. It's providing cover, that overhead cover to protect those broods from avian predators. Also, terrestrial predators, it's hard for them to move through that stuff. There's a lot of insects that grow in there. That's why it's really attractive to the warblers, because they're in there feeding on the insects, but that's what baby grouse are eating too. There are a lot of insects and a lot of small, low-growing plants and stuff that grow underneath all this stuff. These young aspen stands, particularly the bark is soft, and so it provides food resources for snowshoe hares. And particularly if you have a conifer component or balsam fir, that provides shelter for those and a way for the rabbits to get out of the elements. That really help, grouse as well as kind of a spot for them to have little refuges to get out of the weather, and also protects them from avian predators and things like that. So it's really kind of showing that you have your house, your food and shelter all right there. It's a complex of different wildlife needs all provided in one aspen stand. And when you get into these things, you'll notice there's a lot of the logging roads, there's berries growing along the edges and all those different kinds of things. So those are all providing food for wildlife as well as people. These are favorite areas to come pick raspberries and those kinds of things too. So for wildlife, a lot of these different age classes of aspen that we're talking about are really important. In fact, in Michigan, over 70 species of wildlife are dependent on aspen in their different life stages. So that's why aspen trees are so critical for wildlife division. And it's one of the things that we really look at when we're doing our management prescriptions and working with forestry to ensure that we have quality aspen in all age classes on state land. So we're providing not only for all the game species, but also all the other non-game that are also using these things.
Aspen is a relatively short-lived, shade-intolerant species, meaning that it needs full sunlight to to grow and do its best. It'll grow on a range of sites from wet and dry, nutrient-poor sites all the way up to very moist, nutrient-rich sites, which are high-producing aspen grounds. On those wetter sites, Balmigiliad is the more common species, but quaking aspen also grows in those areas. So aspen is it's a shade-intolerant species, meaning it's managed on an even age basis, such as clear cutting, what you see behind us. We go through and clear cut all the trees that are in the stand, so that the ground is open up to full sunlight, so that it can reach a full temperature, and the trees regenerate from the roots of the mature trees that we cut down. It's called root suckering, and when you take the whole canopy off and open it up, we get a flush of sprouts behind, like you see behind us, that are between 0 and 10 years old. And we cut all the other trees around it so that it's completely open, and we will reserve some trees within the stand to help improve the habitat and biodiversity. When people hear clear cut, they think that it's a bad thing, but for aspen, it's a good thing, because that's how that tree species needs to be properly managed. When you come in and clear cut, and we open the ground up to full sunlight, it maximizes sprouting, so we get the most stem density out there, which down the road provides better forest product, because the trees are growing at a higher density. They'll grow taller and straighter a lot faster than if we were to cut it and we didn't cut everything. We'd only have a few stems on the ground, and they wouldn't have to fight for as much sunlight to grow up. They'd be pretty wide spaced, and they'd be more limby.
So we're in a little bit older age class now. We just were looking at that young age class. This is starting to get around that 25 to 30-year-old. And what you'll notice is that stem density has gone down significantly, but it's also allowed other different tree species to come in. So your species richness now is getting more valuable for different types of wildlife. So we have some beak hazelnut in the behind me coming up. We have a nice fir component in here, which is really good for snowshoe hares. So they're really going to work underneath there. But we also have different kinds of shrubs and plants that come in and take in these open spaces between the trees. Also, you'll notice these trees are now a little bit bigger. They can actually support the weight of a grouse up there, and this really is valuable winter food for grouse to get up there and start budding in those branches, where in the younger stuff they can't really do that just because they can't support their weight and they can walk around out there. And so, like I said, we'll have a lot more snowshoe hare in this type of aspen than we did where we saw before. Sure, they'll be in there, but this is really providing really nice winter habitat for snowshoe hare. And this is also the spots where, if I was a grouse hunter, I'd be looking later in the fall. When I start to see this fir component, that's where I really want to start working later in the fall, because that's where those birds are going to be, where there's a little more shelter from the colder weather. It breaks up the wind and provides cover from avian predators and other predators as well. They can get up into those fir trees. You can really see how that fir provides that to the ground canopy cover, which is really important for grouse and snowshoes to evade predators. So, and the other thing we have here on this site, which is kind of interesting, is just over here, we have some snag aspen that were left, and they really provide a lot of cavities for nesting for all your different woodpecker species. Even owls will take over, some different species owls will take over pileated woodpecker homes, and those trees eventually will fall here. And you can see those will provide those drumming logs, as the aspen out here is still only in the 3 to 4-year-old age class. As it gets up to that 10-year-old, you're going to have nice drumming logs out here. We're going to have these cavities will eventually fall, provide even more opportunities for grouse. And in this site, we can see we left it must have had a no white pine speck in it. So these will become super canopy trees. These will be excellent for refuges for bear cubs. These are the kind of trees that mom, if she feels danger, will send those little bear cubs up into those great big white pine trees. This may be opportunities for other big raptors to nest in as well, and eventually provide a real high quality forest product, as well as some larger white pine in the future.
So the department manages aspen on an even age basis. meaning that we clear cut our stands to optimize regeneration. And our typical rotation ages are 40 to 60 years old, with 50 being the normal. The 40-year-old aspen are on our drier, more nutrient-poor sites, where we may decide to grow another species there that would be more productive on that site. And the 60-year-old rotations those are for our more rugged terrain areas like North Marquette County, where our return interval into those areas is going to be much longer. And these rotation ages line up with documented research that's been done on aspen over the years to determine when a stand reaches its maximum yield. Usually a merchantable product such as pulpwood can be harvested from aspen stands on average to good sites beginning around age 40. Unless growing on the best sites, any stands younger than this will only produce chip material for biomass, and this has very limited market. Now, while these younger aspen stands, there may be a few trees that will produce pulpwood, most are not merchantable yet. But in the 10 years between the ages of 40 and 50, the yield in those stands will more than double on aspen growing on the average to good sites. And also these stands in this age group will also yield a larger variety of forest products, chips, pulpwood, and bolt material than those stands at age 40 and less do. When we do clear cut our stands that we manage on an even age basis, in accordance with forest certification, which all Michigan DNR lands are certified under Sustainable Forestry Initiative and the Forest Stewardship Council, we have to retain a certain percentage of the stand that we're harvesting, anywhere from 3 to 10%. And in aspen stands, we try to do it as in patches. Small patches will be left within the stand that we're harvesting, so that it'll provide wildlife habitat in the future, and those trees will just be allowed to die and fall over, and they'll provide drumming logs for grouse and other habitat for things such as voles and mice. As you can see, these aspen behind me are anywhere between 45 and 55 years old, and they're much taller and larger in diameter. There's a variety of products that you can harvest out of these trees. You know, almost the entire tree has pulpwood in it, and a lot of them have bolt material in it as well. And this is what we're trying to attain by letting them go to about 50 years old. The diameters are a lot larger than the last stand we were at, where there were a few 6-inch trees in here, but as you can see in this stand here, these trees are all 8 to 10 inches in diameter right out here on the road, because they're exposed to more light. But as you go further back in the stand, they'll probably be predominantly 7 to 8 inch trees. And the mills in our area desire this larger material up to a maximum diameter, as it produces a better product. Most mills utilizing aspen for pulpwood or oriented strand board have a minimum diameter of 4 inches. And these minimum and maximum diameters have to do with the debarking process, whereas the smaller trees don't hold up and tend to just get pulverized as they put them through their debarkers. And then the larger material, they won't fit inside the drum debarkers. Now, the mills manufacturing pallet or lumber material need at least a 6 to 8 inch diameter tree to produce a product to be able to saw boards out of it. And those mills that are manufacturing plywood and veneer need a larger product, so that because of their machinery to grab onto that log and spin it around and peel it apart. And then these products, bolt material and veneer material, have a much higher value than the smaller pulp size and chip material.
Now again, we're looking at older age aspen, and you can see that stem density has gone down even further. But these trees itself here are going to provide really excellent budding opportunities for grouse. And also, as the stand comes up, there's lots of other mass producing trees and shrubs that are going to come in. So back in here we can see some cherry trees that are coming in, black cherry. So that's going to provide excellent mass for wildlife. It's going to have those fork-shaped crowns that we want to see in the older age. These trees will eventually, if they're not harvested or become part of the pocket of retention that we talked about earlier, these will provide your drumming logs. These will provide your spots for cavity nesters. and those kinds of species. So this really kind of brings the whole cycle of wildlife importance for all age classes of aspen. Like I said, we don't write management plans for every single species in Michigan. We manage the habitat type they require. And with aspen, we're covering well over 70 species in those age classes that provide homes and food for wildlife in Michigan. Those big mature aspens provide not only opportunities for raptors to nest, they tend to have those kind of forked crowns and stuff, so they provide that. But also as they get older, there's not as much aspen and there's more fur component. So it's really suitable for snowshoe hares and those animals that really want that ground cover. But it's also really important for budding during the winter months for grouse. They'll be actually up in those crowns on warm days, actually eating those buds. And then as these trees don't persist in the environments very long, they're a short age tree, so they tend to fall over and break off. And that puts down woody debris on the ground and really important drumming logs. You need those large logs on the ground. You want a couple every acre actually for the breeding of grouse to provide those drumming opportunities. All that woody debris on the ground then provides homes for all your small mammals like your voles and mice, which are food for your fishers and your pine martens and those species. So as I said, 70 different species plus are using these. We can't write management plans for 70 different species, so we manage on a community level. That's why we manage for young age aspen. We manage for the mid-age in that 30-year-old age class, and then we also manage to have some older age class. And each of those life stages provide important parts for wildlife species. And so that's why, like I said, these different age classes of aspen are so important for wildlife species, and why we ensure that we have a balance of all age classes across our state lands to provide for all those species of aspen-needing wildlife.
The only thing better than a handmade basket is one you can put fish in. I had the chance to visit with Jean Haas of Channing for a look at the art of basket weaving.
This basket actually takes two different kinds of reed. It takes number 5 round reed and number 4. And this basket actually starts out like this. That's the bottom of the basket. This is the size base that I start with. And there's what it ends up looking like. And then the next step is I get number 2 round reed and I start going around until I get close to, I think there's like 11 or 12 rows. And when I'm done with that, then I start with a 1/4 inch flat oval. As you go up the basket, you kind of push and shove. Give it a little push as you go up. You would go around till this is supposed to be like 5 inches. When you get to a certain point, then you keep raising just the sides and the back of it so that the top of your creel will be at a slant. There's a brass nail in here that holds this on. And I use number 10 round reed for the bottom of it, but this part, it works out better if I use 5/16 on this. It's about the same size as the number 10, but it is a lot stronger than the number 10 and a lot straighter. Because when you get number 10, it's wound in a little ball. And I go up until I reach about 7 inches. And then I have to add extra layers on this across the back so that it is higher in the back than it is in the front. Some of them are more pronounced than others. And the next step is I have to pack it down because you want it nice and tight. So I push these down, let it dry a little, keep pushing those down, and then I soak the top again, and I have to bend all of these over. These are the 3/8 of an inch. And I do some more twining under this, and the reason I do that is because I want to be able to bend all of these back over. It makes for a much stronger basket. This is 3/8 inch flat oval, and I always stick a little bit of seagrass in the rim as a filler. It makes for a better looking top. And I also have to do what they call scarfing. It's gradually pare that down so that they lay flat. And I go ahead and wrap the rim. I have to put what they call loops, and then this all goes down into the basement and sits on a stepladder. And I put heavy boards across, and I also put canned goods, nice heavy ones, on the inside so that it'll sit flat. My husband makes covers out of oak. I make my own strapping, and this is sinew that attaches this. And then the toggles I make out of 5/16, and then I play with this until I think somebody can be holding a fishing rod. The strapping I sew, and I go over it several times so that it won't come apart. And this is adjustable so that if you are taller or if you have a heavy jacket on or whatever, that you can adjust it. And then it's ready to go. This is a pack basket, and basically I start with the bottom, and I have a box, and I made that the size that the bottom is, so when I start the basket, I start weaving from here, and then as I go, it's got a lazy Susan on the bottom, and I can just keep going around and around. This is a tooth kind of thing so that you can adjust and just pull it. This is a smaller one. This has the runners, no handle. Both baskets have plywood, which helps hold the runners. My quivers, and I kind of cheat with these. I make them on this. That's cheating, but it really works nice. I always put leather straps on these, but these are adjustable. Those are turkey feathers. I have put some of the tail feathers on. This is my peaceful place when I need to get away and do something that I enjoy. I come out here, and I just love it. It's peaceful.
Well, that's it for tonight. If you'd like to know more about the baskets by Jean or anything else you see on Discovering, visit us online at 906outdoors.com. And don't forget to like us on Facebook to get the scoop on what's coming up or where we've been. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next week right here on Discovering.